All right, well, my guest this afternoon is the legendary Ritchie Clapson from Property CEO. So, hi, Ritchie.
Hello.
Now, this might come as a bit of a shock, but there are probably a couple of people on the planet who don't know who you are. So, for those few fools who don't know who you are, could you perhaps give us a bit of an explanation of who you are and what Property CEO does?
I could do. I never knew I was legendary, but obviously I am. So that's great. And for those that don't know, sometimes it's the wife when I go home, so she occasionally doesn't know who I am. So yeah, I'm Ritchie Clapson. I'm actually married to you and 30 years this year. But aside from that, I'm a chartered structural engineer by profession. I've been in the industry, in this construction industry, for just over 37 years. Although I know some of you are probably already saying I don't look like it, but yeah, I have been
Okay, you
around.
started when you were 3.
Started when I was very young, -3 perhaps. So yeah, I've been around in this industry a long time, built up an engineering company. We were world class in what we did. We designed things like Wimbledon retracting roof, for example, things that people would know, peer reviewed the Olympic Stadium, National Aquatics and the Velodrome for the 2012 Olympics for the government, as well as other stuff that made us money. So conversion of office blocks into hotels, high-rise residential, all that sort of thing. I retired, actually. I sold out in 2008, just before the crash, made a few quid and retired, bought the obligatory 9 supercars, the boat, the house with the swimming pool, cinema room, got rid of a lot of that, realized I didn't need all that. I'm down just to 4 cars now, so I'm sort of, managed to control that habit. But now I run a business called Property CEO, and we actually train developers. So I've always been doing this privately over many years. I've got a business partner, Ian Child, who I actually trained. He was one of my mentees. So now the majority of my time, I actually spend training a small handful each year of either existing developers to do things better or brand new people that want to come out and transition from another business into development. So we train people to be property developers. A little bit about me.
I love the word transition. It covers so many different things and so much different connotations. So you've kindly agreed to join me today just to answer a few questions that I'm putting to some leading experts such as yourself. So we'll crack on. Question 1, what would you have done differently if you'd been told that COVID-19 was coming and this crisis was upon us, if you'd had, say, 2 months notice it was going to happen?
Okay, 2 months notice of COVID-19 coming. I guess I would have probably socially isolated quicker because, I'd have probably made that decision because for us as a business, that's not really a problem. I mean, we have a business where we you might think, well, we train in the classroom. We don't do a huge amount of that. Our business by default, and the original concept when we set this business up in 2017 is it'd be totally online. But we have some staff and bits and pieces, so they're all back at home working, and actually the business works really well. Actually, where we're isolating, I'm actually at our business at the moment. I'm in our studio. As you can see, this is not my front room. I don't have a studio in my front room. Popular does. Some people believe that I do, but I'm lucky I can come here because no one else is here. But I think it's quite chilled out actually working in this way. I quite like it. So I definitely would have socially isolated quicker because then some of those concerns of health would have gone away. I think if one relates it to development, because I think if I talk about Property CEO, there's nothing we would have done any different because it's not really largely affected our business. So that's not a problem. But I do a little bit of development. I don't do a huge amount. In fact, actually, someone asked me literally just before I come onto this call, Paul. They said, "Why don't you do a huge amount of development?" I said, I don't enjoy it. I've been around construction sites and developments all my life. I don't actually get the buzz out of that. I can make more money out of that. I actually get a buzz out of training people and seeing people transition, use the word again, to a different place. And that's what we enjoy doing. But if I'd have had 2 months notice, I've got a few projects which are going through. I would have probably pushed a couple of sales through a bit quicker. There's one sale which we are due to exchange on tomorrow, but we've had to put a little bit of pressure on to make that happen. We've had to accept a delay completion to the end of May. I think we could have got that through a little bit quicker. That would have been that project done and finished. And then I've got another project where we've got, I've got 4 units going through, but none have completed. It's got a total of 8 units on it. And I think we could have probably pushed half of that through, maybe on the basis that we would have accepted some different offers. So, if you'd have given me 2 months notice, I could have accepted a couple of lower offers and actually paid off, over half what I owe the funders. So I'd have been under a little bit less pressure. So definitely probably would have pushed some sales through, maybe not being quite as greedy on some offers and accepted them. and maybe then socially isolated a bit quicker.
So, question 2, who or what has impressed you the most during this time?
Our students, actually. I think our students, our mentees, whatever you want to call them, people that we work with, and why they impress me, upbeat and positive. There's a lot of bad stuff going on, but there's also a lot of bad stuff whipped up by the press, which makes it even worse. But what's impressed me, and I'd like to think we take a bit of credit, because when we teach people, we do teach not just property, but business and mindset massively. Ian, my business partner, is a real guru of mindset, and I think that's his bag. And I think it's been really pleasurable to speak to people on a lot of virtual meetings, a lot of online stuff, which we always did anyway, but to see faces come on board, and the majority of, not all, but the majority of, are totally upbeat. That's, well, it's okay. Yeah, we're going to deal with it. And I guess I'm a half full guy. I've always been a half full. That's, I always used to allow myself pour a 24-hour downer. Things have gone wrong for me in business. Yeah, we all have had our ups and downs. And when they were down, and twice in my life, I've had business partners do a runner. The first one only cost me 100,000. The second one only cost me 500,000. But 2 guys did runners on me. And I used to allow myself this same rule, a 24-hour downer. Go out, get drunk, whatever you want to do, whatever your thing is. But then tomorrow you've got to get back on it. You've got to deal with it. And what's impressed me is our mentees have come with that thing. Like, okay, it's lockdown, it's isolation, it's delayed my plans. But interestingly enough, they've looked at it and spun the positive on it. That, in fact, actually, I'm new to development. Even people that's right on the early part of their program, I'm new to development. The world's not moving ahead. So I'm not falling behind. So this is my chance to catch up and actually be ahead. We liken it to a lot. I talk a lot at the moment, doing a lot of webinar discussions and bits and pieces about, there's a marathon that's about to start, and they're going to cut that tape. And you want to be at the front, so use this time wisely. This should be when you work your hardest and actually think the most positive, to be at the front of that queue, to take those opportunities when they come. And I don't mean at the sake of others' downfall, but there are opportunities that you can genuinely and morally capitalize on and take advantage of in the right way, and move forward. So my students, positive energy, being half full, I love that. That's really, really good.
I love that marathon analogy. I'm going to try and find a way to put that into one of my Lego LinkedIn posts at some point.
I think you should do. I love the Lego stuff.
That's all right. I'll make sure you're credited, sir. Number 3, describe something that you've most enjoyed at this time.
Can I do 2 things?
You can.
Okay.
As it's you.
Well, the first thing that immediately comes to mind is being able to help people on a one-to-one basis. So I sat in exactly the studio Friday last week, having a chat with someone, I won't say who they were, whether they're a student or whatever, who was looking at the distinct possibility. He was transitioning, 3 times I've got that word in because you like it. He was transitioning from his current career to a development role, always wanted to do it. He's doing well, but he needed his current employment position, which has got a lot of flexibility, but to carry on. That may not happen, and he might be in trouble. And he came on the phone, we had a virtual meeting like this, and he was down. He was really low. I could just tell it, his whole body language. The great thing about virtual meetings, you get to see how people are reacting. And I spent 2 hours on the meeting with him, which was only going to be a quick 15-minute catch up. And I left the meeting and he was buzzing, because actually for every problem that he foresaw, I found a way around it. Every problem he foresaw, I found a way around it. And the big thing that he wanted to do was keep his dream alive. But one thing he worked out, that is, if he couldn't do certain things, and if he couldn't keep his job going, he might not be able to release certain funds from where he wanted to release them to, because he didn't have employment and he couldn't. But we talked around that, and we came around ways of, it's like thinking out of the box. It doesn't matter. I teach people to be property developers. Actually, I really teach people to be business people in the property development sector. That's the subtle difference. And it's just a can-do attitude. And that was really nice. It was quite late Friday night when I went home, and I planned to go home a bit early to spend a bit of time with the family. And it was really nice to do that one-to-one and uplift people. And I think the reason I say 2, because we started some support sessions, some online and support sessions, which we started about 3 or 4 weeks ago. I think we're on about 8 sessions now. And just to reach out, quick fire, 45-minute webinar sessions, and anyone can join, anyone can come on, and we'll answer any question. And it is an upbeat exclusivity zone. So we say, look, we're not belittling what's going on outside there, but here for 45 minutes to an hour, we're going to be upbeat, positive. That has been so rewarding. We do those sessions. We just reached out to people, and people are joining in their droves, which is great. Just people we'd never even heard of. This coming on, and the messages that we get in afterwards, we say, "Was that okay?" And we get these stream of messages come in on the chat, on the Q&A, and things like, "You changed my day," or "It's brilliant." Some person, and there's a lady who said, I look forward to your sessions because it's some adult contact, it's upbeat, and it's away from the kids. So just twice a week, I love it just for that. Even though it's got some good content, I love the fact that there's a bit of banter, a bit of humor, and you're doing it. And that is massively rewarding. We come off of those. It takes a fair bit of prep to get all these things together and get them out there. But Ian and I, my business partner, we come off of those, and then we pick up the phone to each other because he's isolating at home. And we go, that was brilliant, wasn't it? Absolutely brilliant. So those are my 2 favorite things: one-to-one with people, helping people, and there's no bigger reward in life than helping people and turn people around, particularly from a bad place, and then helping many people in that way. Less engaging, but we know we're doing a lot of good. That's really good fun.
Oh, good to hear. And it is always helping people is an uplifting experience. It's proven fact. The endorphins in your brain go off and your body just feels much better. So next question then. What do you think, being an expert on all things property, that's going to be the biggest change to the property industry when this is all over? Assuming, of course, this is all over someday.
Well, okay. I mean, I think it will all be over. I think the thing is, and I think there's a 2-phase to this. So I'd be thinking of 2 phases. I put a post out on social media last week. Some people have seen about a 15-minute rant that I did, and if you haven't, apologise. I'll give you a summary. But basically, I got so annoyed that I was listening to the 10 o'clock news, and ordinarily I do not listen to the news. One of my policies is we don't listen to the news, but at the moment we have to get a daily update at 10 o'clock. And they were constantly talking about releasing lockdown gradually, slowly, whatever, as if that was going to be it. And the reality is that no one was talking about what I put out on a post as the elephant in the room, and that's death, and an acceptable level of death, because there's no cure. You know, there still is no cure. There was a great program on the TV just recently about a lot of scientists interviewed and saying what was going to happen and when they were going to have a vaccine and so on and so forth. And the reality is that I look at this, and it comes back to the answer on the question about the property, and I see it in 2 stages, that there's no cure. So at the moment, lockdown just means we have to do business in a different way. And the release of lockdown means there's an acceptable level of death, which is a bizarre thing to say. And what is the acceptable level of death? How would you define that? And on the lockdown, I said, my interpretation is it's a level that the NHS can cope with. It's got nothing to do with your loved ones, your parents, your elderly friends, or your friends, whatever, of all ages, are going to die. So, business isn't going to suddenly get back to normal. And so the first thing that I said on this post, and I think this is relevant to this question here, Paul, is that you have to think about doing business in a different way. You have to think about networking in a different way. I was speaking to one of the, some of the network events that we do and tie up with, and one of the owners of one of those events I spoke to, and I said, you've got to think about getting people, because we're social animals, back round into the room, but in a different way. You can run a networking event on social distancing. You just put 5 people around the table, not 10. Yeah. You absolutely say, we're not going to shake hands. You do lunch in a different way. You don't all queue up and get lunch out of a buffet area. There are ways of running network events on a social distancing manner, and to be safe. So the bottom line is, don't think that you're going to sit and have a holiday, because holiday's been used and it's totally the wrong word, and then go, right, back to normal, off we go. It's not going to happen. Think of a way, and if I'm talking about development, work out how you can go out and procure your developments, take them forward, find source, fund, all taking on board social distancing. And you can do it. And if someone said to you, for the rest of your life, you have to adopt social distancing because COVID-19 is never going to go away, we're not all going to sit back and go, oh, let's just chill out, have a little bit more of a holiday then. Because commercially, we can't afford to. So the first stage is, when lockdown comes out, work out how you can do stuff, out the box thinking. So that's the most important thing. That's the biggest change, is that people need to think about how they can do their business now. So someone was saying, how can I talk to agents, commercial agents? I said, well, virtual meeting them. Well, yeah, but they could be furloughed. I said, even more important, because if they're made redundant, they'll remember you that had a virtual coffee with them. And as an agent, they're going to pop up somewhere else. And they go, yeah, that was the guy who kept in touch. And we just had a coffee once a week, which was really great, because I was sat on my own at home and I'd just been made redundant and furloughed or whatever. So you've just got to think about doing business in a different way. That, I think, is the most important, the biggest change is going to come out of it. I think after that, it's perhaps just having things in place to know that you can cope next time. I've done a bit. People have said, "Oh, you're doing a bit of told you so, Clapson," and I said, "Well, yeah, I am a little bit, but this is because there's a serious message here." And I've always said, when I train developers, is don't be greedy. There are some developers, and you use phrases which are really crass, which is, I've heard someone say, like, go big or don't bother, or something like that. It's like rubbish. You can make a relatively small end of development, 150, 250,000 a year. And I've never had a session when I've presented or done virtual meetings or around a room, hands up, who would, if they earned that a year in, year out, with a bit of risk, but not too much, who would that be enough? And most people's got their hands straight up. And I think if you stay at that relatively small end of the market and you do smaller schemes, in a number of, if you want to, that you can get in and out of relatively quickly, that are relatively small, but also tackle to that in the need market, not the want market. So basic things that people need, small houses, small flats, that sort of thing, rather than 4 or 5 bed luxury. Stick in the small projects, and you tend to actually survive these type of things, because I can think of 2 developers right now. One who's gone big. He's in the what's the name at the moment, largely because he's got virtually maximum funding out. He's got nothing he can sell. His contractor stopped on site. Lots of discussions around JCT contracts, whether he's liable for that delay or not. Whereas another contractor who might not be making £1 million out of his project, like this guy, he's got 4 projects making $250,000 each, but he's got one which he's already sold out of. One, he's only got a couple of units left, but the funder's virtually paid down, so they're cool. One, he has got a problem on site that he's stopped, but it's not that big, so it's okay. And one, he's actually delayed starting. So spreading your risk. So I think the second thing that will come out of this is people will think this can happen again. And it will. Something else will happen next time. So I think business will reformat for those that are wise to actually get ready for the next time. Long answer, but there you go.
No, it's a good answer. I liked it. And last but not least, questions-wise, when this eventually ends, because as we both agreed it will end, we just can't tell when, what's the one thing you can't do now that you're most looking forward to doing again?
Can I have 3 things?
Go on.
One thing. Okay, let me start with the first one. And these popped in my head, so just literally popped in my head in terms of order. First 2 are very family orientated. So one is spending time with my son and my daughter-in-law. I used to work with my son. My son ran a business for me several years ago. We spent a lot of time together, and we can't see each other. And that's a show. I could cycle past his house and give him a wave. But we're a close family, and my daughter-in-law we're very close to, so we don't see them. And that's tough. So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing them. Really excited to see them. Being less concerned about my elderly parents being isolated. So my parents are both in their 80s. Not so much, I mean, it goes back to that treatment and vaccine thing. Once there's a treatment or a vaccine, then one feels a lot more comfortable with them. But they are very vulnerable. My father has significant underlying health issues, so he does not want to get it. But I think it's more about them being in lockdown. They've got each other, so that's good. And we've got myself and 2 sisters that look after them. But it would be nice to know that they can, albeit with a extreme amount of very controlled social distancing, can get back out and at the very least come and see us. So I think just being less concerned about almost their mental well-being than their individual health. And thirdly, and this is a selfish one, some people may or may not realize, and some that may or may not know me, I do quite enjoy public speaking. I'm so looking. Yeah, I know I'm a little bit shy, but I push myself to come out of my shell. I do this because I love doing this. I retired some years ago, and then I found my real purpose in life to come back to work to do this. And I totally enjoy training people, just the satisfaction of training people is great. We talked about that earlier about helping people, and I've never really thought it, as you said, though, Paul, about this releases certain chemicals in your body. That's probably why you enjoy it, and you're probably spot on with that. I like that. But I going back many years ago, I wish I could have played the guitar or sing. I can't do either. I got thrown out of piano lessons at the age of 12, so that all got knocked on the head. And so my only ability to get that sort of applause is on a stage, publicly speaking about property development or business exiting or whatever. So I love getting up on a stage. I love talking. I love the reward that gives you back, that people, they really appreciate what you've given them. So yeah, I'd like to get back and do that again.
Oh, I've got to admit, I miss that. You can do it via video conference, but it's not the same as actually having people in the room.
It's not, and you know, Paul, you and I have done a few gigs, if we want to call it that, together, and we bounce off of each other, and all that sort of stuff, which I love. If you've got some speakers you're familiar with, or you just feel comfortable with, and you can bounce off of each other, and that's such great fun, because I think speaking is as much about education as it is entertainment, and I think I've thoroughly enjoyed the times that we've done together, and I think you might be slightly up on the you know, getting me, but you know, we'll pay you back.
Yeah, I was going to say I might be one ahead, I think, at the minute, but I know you'll get me back. So thanks very much for your time today, Ritchie. And just very quickly, because you mentioned at the outset your courses that you're running and the sort of help groups that you're doing, if we've got people that have seen your video today that would be interested in coming along to one of your virtual sessions, how's the best way they can go about that?
Yeah, I mean, just to be clear, we do train people. That's what we train people to be, property developers. You can't just go and buy a course off us. We're one of those rare people that actually you have to be interviewed, and we only invite a certain amount of people in. You might think that's a bit odd, but that's just the way we are. We don't train that many people. So I'm sorry, I can't. I'm not going to flog you a course. I can't. You can go on our website. You're never going to find something. What I'd suggest, look, if you're interested, really, what's going on, understanding what's happening, or maybe as I mentioned earlier, getting some of that positivity. Pop onto our website, propertyceo.co.uk, propertyceo.co.uk. There's a webinar tab on there. Click onto one of those webinars. They're called support sessions. We run them at 7 o'clock on a Tuesday evening, 10 o'clock on a Saturday morning. They're sort of 45 minutes, maximum of 1 hour. Myself, my business partner Ian, we often have a guest on. Maybe Paul will get you on at some point, only if the audience request it. But we get people on, and we're just answering any questions that people got. It's all upbeat, it's all positivity, a bit of banter, a bit of fun. We always talk about what biscuits we've got in, so we have a little bit of chat about that. And it's just a little bit of positive energy. So actually, if you're in property, you're in business, and you want a bit of escapism, pop onto the website, register for one of those, and I'd be more than pleased to see you on there.
Well, good man. Well, thanks very much for your time, Ritchie. And I hope everyone's found that use. See you soon.
Great stuff. See you now. Bye-bye.